It is Business and Finance here on Echo Television International, and you are welcome. So banks are on the capitalization raise again because if we remember in the first quarter of 2024, starting this year, CBN, the governor, brought out a new modification for recapitalizations of bank and a new benchmark or minimum contribution from the deposit money banks to the Central Bank of Nigeria have been increased. And if we remember, we are seeing for commercial banks that are having both international license and national license, that is for the deposit money banks, most especially the tier 1 banks that are having relationship, that is you can have both dollar domicile account with them and then the naira account with them. They have their cutoff point, rather the minimum that they can contribute to the Central Bank of Nigeria was increased to 500 billion naira. And then we are seeing that for national, just banks operating just strictly within Nigeria was increased to 200, and then we have regional that is still under the commercial bank category at 50 billion, and then we're looking at merchant banks that are only national 50 billion naira, and then non-interest bank we are looking at national 20 billion, and then regional we are looking at 10 billion. That is, this bank's category is just within the country, that is national, and then regional that's sub-regions within the country. Now we are seeing that top banks are targeting over $3 billion fund in foreign capital market. That is, they are not just going to rely only on raising funds within the national level that is in the country, but they are targeting international methods and ways, that is foreign currencies, to be able to reach this benchmark of 500 billion naira. And then we are seeing that the First Bank Holdings, Access Holding, Guaranteed Trust Holding Company, United Bank of Africa have indicated plans to raise over $3.03 billion in fresh capital. Now, if we are to put that in naira, we are looking at 3.46 trillion naira. Now, this came barely 1 month. Now, this was given out in March, and few months later we are seeing this coming from these tier 1 deposit money banks. At least 2 of these financial institutions, we are looking at the First Bank Nigerian Holdings and then the GT Co, announced their plans to raise fresh capital, while Access Holdings said it will raise capital in both naira and US dollar. Now, if you go further, you will see that the GTCO have given, in their general meeting, have asked for approval, also coming from the First Bank Nigerian Holding, asking shareholders and stakeholders in the bank if they can go ahead with raising these funds, that is, they are in need of at least 300 billion naira, meaning these banks for sure, if it was just 200 billion to be the benchmark in naira, they will be having it. But we are seeing that the Central Bank of Nigeria have put it at 500 billion. So for GTCO, they are in need of about 300 billion to be able to reach this new recapitalization quota by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And why First Bank Holdings have gotten its approval in its own meeting, the GTCO are on their way there. We can see that Access Bank have made it clear that they have to get these funds not only in foreign currencies, but in the naira, the US dollar, and also other currencies available for them to be able to reach this benchmark. And we know what that means. For banks that are not able to reach this benchmark, it means a margin. If they have to remain a tier 1 deposit money bank, we've seen margin in the past, but I believe that this race is becoming hotter as these banks will want to have their stand alone. Now, this is bringing fear for a lot of Nigerians that there could, or this could rather, lead to, injecting illicit funds into the bank, into our banks. And then this also have to mean that, CBN have to be on the watch. And then, of course, these banks it is hook or crook. But then let it not be what will be implicating. Let it not be what will be like what we are having the Financial Crimes Commission fighting. Let it not be that we have banks that are, aiding such transactions in the country. So I believe it's a hook, and we can remove the crook part of raising this 500 billion for our tier one banks, and then let's just follow the right ways. And in as much as it is a concern, it is definitely something that I believe that these banks have kept a clean record, have looked good in the eyes of Nigeria, and I believe that for them to still be standing, they are getting it right one way or the other, and it should remain like that. Now, in move with what tier one banks are recording and doing, we are seeing that now this is a 2023 report for the financial year. And we are seeing that our tier one banks having a 70.9% increase to over 94.30 billion. This is their assets surging 94.30 trillion in naira. This is assets. And then we would like to look at these banks and what they're able to rake in the difference. Now, despite the challenging economic situation for the year 2023, if we can remember, the financial year for 2023 wasn't the easiest, most especially looking at what it became in the third quarter down to the fourth quarter of the year 2023. But still yet, we are seeing that tier one banks had a great financial year for 2023. Now, the country's first tier lenders are Access Holding PLC. We have Zenith Bank, United Bank of Africa, that is the UBA, First Bank Nigerian Holding PLC, the Guaranteed Trust Holding Company. And then we have yes, the Access Bank retained its position as the largest bank in the country in terms of asset. That is for 2023. It grew its total assets by 11.69 trillion naira, which we are looking at a 77.94% to 26.269 trillion from 14.99 trillion naira as at 2022. So we are looking at what this bank made in 2022, what it made now in 2023. So we are seeing an immense increase in what the bank have made. Now, it was followed by the United Bank of Africa, popularly known UBA, which grew its total assets by 9.79 trillion or 90% to 20.65 trillion in 2023 from what it made. That is, we are looking at 10.86 trillion that of 2023. Let's also look at what Zenith made. We are looking at a 66% surge from 12.3 trillion naira in 2022 to 20.4 trillion naira in 2023. Now, we are First Bank Holdings unaudited financial statement for the year, which ended December 31st, 2023, equally indicate that the financial institute's total assets increased by 6.32 trillion naira or 59%. And that is from it went from 10.5 trillion precisely to 16.89 trillion for 2023. That is an immense increase, and we can see a margin of over 6 trillion naira. So yes, kudos to our tier one banks, and then the other banks that are making some growth. We've seen some for last year. We saw Union Bank, for example, giving their profit before tax for the year 2023. And some banks have recorded some financial increase, in as much as other banks are not thriving as they should. We are seeing other banks recording some level of success, and we have to wait and see if all our tier one banks will be able to come up with the 500 billion recapitalization new benchmark by the Central Bank of Nigeria amid this new surge and increase in gain. Now, tariff hike is nothing new. We started the year 2024 with the federal government not being certain whether the tariff hike will be implemented, which means that subsidy for electricity will be removed. And eventually, we are seeing that yes, the subsidy for electricity have been removed, in as much as we are having the ministry saying 85% of Nigerians are still enjoying electricity subsidy. But I want to believe that even with that subsidy, we don't would 85% of Nigerians are not seeing a low hike. That is, despite the subsidy, we are still seeing a hike in tariff plan. Now we are seeing the federal government having backlash left, right, center, and we have electricity union threatening to go on a strike. And you would understand that if tariff hike goes high, we have our electricity workers always in a situation of life and death, because now we have angry consumers and angry Nigerians looking for the closest representation of the federal government, and usually it is electricity workers that are the receiving end of the decisions made by the government in Nigeria. However, the main concern here is, what does it mean for businesses? What does it mean for manufacturers? What does it mean for the medium-scale enterprises that have been holding on to thin thread? What does it mean for the businesses that are just springing up, or the businesses that are just about to start? What does it mean for the financial season for a household? What does it mean? What does this implement to the what does this implicate on the standard of the living of Nigerians, of a regular Nigeria? What does it mean for households? And then, yes, we are going to see manufacturers talk about it, and we are going to see more businesses shutting in, because despite the FX inflow, we are having a power crisis. And this means that either way, this is an important factor in play. So even if we are having our FX doing better, that is the Naira surging high and doing well as against the dollar, it still means that we will have issues for some businesses, most especially businesses that their success is not dependent on the value of the Naira, but the accessibility of things that they need to run the business, such as power, such as electricity. So yes, it still means doom for a lot of small and medium scale businesses. It means even for nano businesses, we're looking at macro businesses here. We are looking at a common shop owner whose main gain is on a daily basis. And what does it mean? For example, if we are going to say, what does it mean for people who are in the market, owning shops, and they are dealing with raw goods such as livestock or chicken or beef? What does it mean? Fish. What does it mean for such trader? Or what does it mean for a business person that is relying on this electricity to be able to effectively give 100% of their goods and services to the small community within and around? And we are seeing that TCN and Discos are also bickering over failing 20-hour supply, because immediately after this tariff hike, we witnessed a national grid collapse. And we have Nigerians lamenting that we are paying for electricity and we are not seeing it. Tariff hike is there, and then nothing to show for the electricity we are paying for. And then we have the federal government going further to separate consumers into different bands, from band A, B, C, and then the list go on. We'll just wait and see what this means for businesses, what it means for a common man, what it means for households, and then what does it mean for manufacturers with this tariff hike. As we have seen, the subsidy removal on fuel have left a lot of businesses hanging and have forced a lot to shut down. Now with subsidy being removed from on electricity, what will it mean for the businesses that have been holding on to what's left? And let's see how this will affect our daily lives and the entire revenue of the country. Now we are seeing that the Naira keeps appreciating, and then CBN is working to stabilize Naira. This is a statement from Cardoso telling Nigerians that, you know what, the dollar is the Naira will continue to gain its value as against the dollar. However, there will still be ups and downs. And these are all statements made by the Central Bank of Nigerian governor during the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank meeting. We saw this last week, and of course, different statement concerning it. And he said he have to be honest. I think we should expect that there will be increases here and there, ups and downs. And even from what you reported yesterday, that is in the week past, from what I gather, the Naira has begun strengthening overnight, he said. So these are statements from the Central Bank of Nigeria, Governor Cardoso, at the IMF and World Bank meeting that took place in the week that just passed. So he is saying that the most important thing is that we are doing everything possible to ensure that we have a stable exchange rate and an exchange rate that finds its adequate price discovery level. He said the local currency will continue to appreciate against foreign currency on diaspora remittances. Kado said the bank's target is to double the present flow. So one of the strategy clearly is to increase diaspora remittances, and perhaps one of the reasons we are seeing a gain or an increase in the value of the Naira as against the dollar. So kudos to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the governor, and then its team working together. That is, we are looking at the MPC here. Whatever you're doing for the Naira to gain its value as against the dollar and other currency, keep doing it, as we are hoping to see that this will drastically improve the standard of living of the Nigerian citizens. Now, despite all of this forex increase and inflow, we are seeing that equity market in the week past are suffering some amount of loss, a huge amount of loss, which is amounting to 1.6 trillion naira. This just took place in 1 week. So we have seen that the equity market was on red zone throughout the previous week, as investors have lost over 1.57 trillion naira. Now we are seeing that the pullback in the domestic equity market, which has persisted for some weeks, reflects the current market dynamics and changes in fundamentals in the face of a highest interest rate environment, mixed macroeconomic data, and yields in the alternative investment window. So let's look at some of the percentage and what it means. So at the end of the week, the market capitalization and the all share index depreciated by about 2.71% to close at 56.296 trillion naira, and we are looking at a point of 99,539.75 points. The year-to-date return of the market closed lower at 33.12% as against 36.83% in the prior week. Sales off in stock worth over 1 trillion were the major drivers of the equity market loss, as investors dumped banking stocks in the wake of the recapitalization drive by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So we are seeing that this recapitalization raise, it is in fact affecting investment in the equity market. Now, investors exchanged 1.6 billion shares worth 32.31 billion naira in 44,915 deals, which was higher than the 1.13 billion shares valued at 28.65 billion naira that were traded in 21,921 deals in the previous week. So the financial service industry, led by the activity chart, with 1.148 billion shares valued at 22.42 billion naira traded in 26,192 deals, contributing 71.87% and 69.39% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. So we'll just have to wait and see what this will mean for the equity market moving on to the start of this week. Looking at banks are now out for the recapitalization raise, looking at how to raise more funds, and we see that this recapitalization ongoing has been a major factor to some of the losses that investors are encountering, as we are seeing them dumping shares or stock of banks, and then of course going to see other stocks and then shares where will be profitable and all of that, as banks are now more on a fundraising spree to be able to keep up with the Central Bank of Nigeria. So we'll just have to wait and see what this means for investors and what this week is going to look like at the equity market. Thank you for keeping a date with me today on Business and Finance. Till I come your way next week, goodbye.